The silent deserts of our world hold secrets that rewrite human history. Beneath the shifting sands lie 15 enigmatic structures, each one a profound challenge to the established story of early human migration. By the end of this journey, you will see a completely new map of our ancient past emerge. Why would our ancestors build massive astronomical observatories in the middle of barren wastelands? And what forgotten connections do these stone puzzles reveal about civilizations separated by oceans and time? The entire narrative of our shared journey is far more complex and interconnected than we were ever taught. What does it truly mean to be an explorer for a long time? The story of our early journey was told with a comforting simplicity. The dominant theory, often called the out-of-Africa model, painted a picture of a slow and steady march. It suggested our ancestors expanded in a relatively straight line, clinging to coastlines and fertile river valleys, their progress measured over tens of thousands of years. In this narrative, monumental achievements like building vast stone structures were the exclusive domain of later, settled societies. These were the farmers, the people who had put down roots and could afford to think in generations. Deserts in this old story were mere obstacles. They were empty spaces on the map, barriers to be crossed as quickly as possible, places where survival was the only goal and grand construction was unthinkable. This established timeline was a comfortable one, placing human ingenuity firmly within a known and logical sequence. But comfort is often the enemy of discovery. What happens when you find a sophisticated observatory in the middle of a barren desert, and it appears to be far older than the first farms? Suddenly, that linear timeline begins to crumble. These enigmatic desert structures do not fit the old model. They point to a different kind of human story, one of profound adaptability and a daring spirit of exploration that we are only just beginning to appreciate. The deserts were not just voids to be crossed, they were destinations, and the people who reached them possessed a knowledge that forces us to redraw the map of our past. Etched into the stark, rainless plains of southern Peru, the Nazca Lines form one of the world's most famous and perplexing puzzles. These are not small drawings. They are geoglyphs on a monumental scale, depicting spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, and vast geometric shapes so enormous they dissolve into meaningless grooves when you stand beside them. Their true form is only visible from the sky, a perspective the creators themselves could never have physically achieved. How did the Nazca people, between 500 years before the Common Era and 500 years into it, accomplish this feat? They used beautifully simple methods, removing the dark, sun-baked surface stones to reveal the lighter, contrasting earth beneath. This was not a matter of brute force, but of breathtakingly precise surveying and communal effort over generations. The question of why they did it is where the true mystery lies. Was it a giant astronomical calendar tracking the movements of the sun and stars? Were these lines ritual pathways walked by priests to plead with water deities in one of the driest places on Earth? The location itself is a vital clue. The hyper-arid environment preserved these lines for over 1,000 years, but it also forces us to wonder why a culture would invest so much of its energy and identity here, in this specific, challenging landscape. This was not the work of a people merely surviving. It was the work of a society with a complex worldview, capable of organizing massive projects and thinking in abstract, symbolic terms that we are still struggling to interpret. The Nazca Lines stand as a powerful rebuke to any simple story of early human development, proving that deserts were not empty wastelands, but were instead chosen as the canvas for humanity's most ambitious and enduring ideas. While the Nazca Lines challenge our ideas of what ancient desert cultures could achieve, another site in a different desert pushes the very origins of civilization itself into a much deeper past. Far to the east, in the now barren expanse of the Egyptian Sahara, lies Nabta Playa. This is not a place of towering pyramids, but of stones arranged with a profound purpose. Around 7,500 years before the Common Era, a community of cattle herders began moving massive stones into precise formations. This was not random. They built a stone circle, calendar circles, and burial mounds, aligning them with the summer solstice and the paths of important stars. This makes Nabta Playa one of the oldest known astronomical observatories on Earth, existing thousands of years before the more famous Stonehenge. The implications of this are staggering. These people were not farmers living in settled cities. They were nomadic pastoralists who followed the rains during a time when the Sahara was a greener, wetter place. Yet they possessed a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, and they invested immense effort into creating a permanent ceremonial center in the heart of their world. This single fact shatters a long-held belief that such complex, calendar-based societies could only emerge after the invention of agriculture. What does it mean that these desert wanderers were mapping the heavens while many other cultures were still in their infancy? The story of Nabta Playa does not end when the climate changed and the desert returned. As the land dried out, this community likely had to move to survive. Researchers suggest that their knowledge, their traditions, and their celestial observations may have traveled with them, perhaps northward toward the Nile Valley. Could the seeds of ancient Egyptian civilization, with its own deep obsession with stars and calendars, have been sown here in this forgotten Saharan basin? Nabta Playa forces us to consider a radical idea that the cradle of civilization may have much deeper and more diffuse roots, beginning not along a mighty river, but in the challenging and ever-changing landscape of the desert itself. Far to the north of the Egyptian sands, another stone puzzle rises from a rugged, arid landscape. In the Golan Heights, a massive structure known as Rujm el-Hiri, or the Wheel of Spirits, commands the basalt plains. Its Hebrew name, Gilgal Rephaim, evokes a more mythical past, translating to the Wheel of the Giants. This is not a simple pile of rocks. It is a breathtakingly complex monument of concentric stone circles, a labyrinthine design over 150 feet across, all centered around a towering burial cairn. Constructed around 3,000 years before the Common Era, its scale is matched only by its mystery. Why would a society of the early Bronze Age, a time we often associate with simple pastoral living, commit to such a staggering project? The sheer tonnage of stone moved and the precision of its geometric layout speak of a powerful, coordinated community, one with a clear vision that demanded generations of labor. The leading theories offer tantalizing clues. Some researchers see it as a grand celestial calendar, its walls aligned to capture the rays of the summer solstice sunrise. Others believe it was a regional ceremonial center, a sacred gathering place for nomadic tribes spread across the challenging terrain. Its very existence forces us to reconsider what we know about this era. This was not the work of a scattered, survival-focused people. The Wheel of Spirits is the signature of a complex, organized society with the technical knowledge and social cohesion to alter their world on a monumental scale. It stands as a silent, powerful testament to a forgotten chapter of human ambition, a society whose story is written in stone, yet whose name has been lost to the very winds that sweep through its ancient circles. These vast stone structures stretch across the deserts like ghostly blueprints from the air. Known as desert kites, their true form remains hidden from the ground, a network of long, purposeful walls that converge into circular or star-shaped enclosures. Scattered from the Arabian Peninsula to the highlands of Armenia, these are not random piles of rock. They are the remnants of a survival strategy on a colossal scale. For generations, their purpose baffled researchers. Now a compelling picture has emerged. These were massive, sophisticated animal traps, engineered by ancient hunters with a deep understanding of animal behavior and the landscape. Imagine gazelle herds being gently guided or driven down these long stone corridors, funneled by the converging walls directly into the enclosures. This was not a chaotic hunt, but a highly organized communal effort. The sheer scale of these constructions is what makes them truly revolutionary. Some of the drive lines run for kilometers, an almost unimaginable feat of labor and planning in such a challenging environment. Their widespread distribution is the second part of the mystery. Why do nearly identical structures appear across such a vast and disconnected geographic range? This pattern suggests something far more significant than independent invention. It points to a shared knowledge, a technology of survival that was passed across these now arid zones. During a wetter period in the ancient past, these deserts were greener, capable of supporting both game and the people who followed them. The desert kites hint at a form of cultural connection, an inter-regional network where techniques for thriving in this world were communicated and adopted. This was landscape engineering on a continental scale, a testament to human cooperation that predates the pyramids and rewrites our understanding of early societal complexity. These silent stone lines are not just traps, they are the earliest maps of a connected world. The sheer scale of the desert kites speaks to a deep, shared intelligence, but what happens when that communal effort turns from survival to the sacred? In the deserts of northwestern Saudi Arabia, recent archaeological work has revealed structures that shift our understanding of early human spirituality. These are the Mustatils, vast rectangular platforms built from sandstone blocks that form some of the oldest large-scale ritual monuments anywhere on Earth. Dating to the Neolithic period, around 5,000 years before the Common Era, these are not simple shrines. Some of these Mustatils stretch for over 1,500 feet, their long walls enclosing courtyards and culminating in central chambers where standing stones were placed. Excavations within these chambers have uncovered offerings, carefully placed collections of animal horns and skulls. This points directly to a powerful communal ritual function, likely centered on a widespread cattle cult. Imagine the scene: pastoral communities gathering from across a vast and challenging territory, drawn together at these colossal stone rectangles for ceremonies that reinforced their shared beliefs and identity. The existence of hundreds of these Mustatils across a huge area is the true revelation. This was not an isolated practice of a single tribe. It indicates a unified religious belief system and a surprising degree of social organization among nomadic groups in a landscape we now view as profoundly isolated. The Mustatils fundamentally challenged the idea that the Arabian Peninsula was a cultural backwater, a mere crossroads for passing migrants. Instead, it appears to have been a vibrant hub of ritual innovation and social complexity, a place where unique architectural traditions flourished long before the rise of famous empires. This discovery adds a crucial piece to our puzzle, proving that the human need to build monuments to the sacred is as ancient as our struggle for survival, and that even the most arid deserts could nurture profound spiritual worlds. Far to the south of Egypt, the Nubian desert holds a royal secret. While the pyramids of Giza are known across the globe, the Sudanese sands guard a necropolis of staggering scale and unique beauty. This is Meroë, a city of the dead where over 200 pyramids rise from the dunes. Built by the rulers of the Kingdom of Kush over a 1,000-year period, these are not copies of their northern neighbors. Their design is uniquely Nubian, characterized by dramatically steep, narrow angles and distinctive flat tops, creating a sharp, elegant silhouette against the desert sky. The presence of this vast royal cemetery speaks of a civilization of immense confidence and power. The Kingdom of Kush was a formidable rival to Egypt itself, a nexus of trade routes and a source of immense wealth from its gold mines and advanced iron production. But the most telling clue to their mastery lies in the location itself. They chose to build their capital and this spectacular necropolis deep in the desert, strategically positioned away from the main course of the Nile. This was not an act of isolation, but one of supreme control. It was a statement that they commanded the arid landscape, that their power was rooted in the very heart of the trade corridors that crisscrossed the continent. The pyramids of Meroë stand as a profound correction to a narrow historical narrative. They are a monumental declaration that complex, pyramid-building civilizations thrived independently in multiple regions of Africa, their strategic desert foothold enabling a golden age of economic and cultural influence that lasted for nearly a millennium. For centuries, the legend of Ubar was whispered as a cautionary tale, a city of immense wealth and towering pride that vanished when the very sands rose up to consume it. Known as the Atlantis of the sands, it seemed a pure myth, a story told to warn against greed. Then, in the early 1990s, modern technology gave the old stories a startling new reality. By analyzing satellite images of the Omani Desert, researchers spotted the faint, ghostly outlines of ancient caravan tracks converging on a single point. When explorers finally reached that remote location, they found the ruins of a powerful fortress. Its very foundations collapsed into a massive sinkhole. This was not a myth. It was the lost city of Ubar, a hub for the frankincense trade that flourished over 5,000 years ago. Frankincense, the aromatic resin harvested from rare trees, was more valuable than gold in the ancient world. The discovery of Ubar provides undeniable proof of the incredible trade networks that once snaked across the Rub al-Khali, the vast and terrifying empty quarter of Arabia. This was not a simple footpath. It was a sophisticated, long-distance commercial highway operated by people who possessed an intimate and advanced knowledge of desert survival. They knew where to find hidden water sources and how to navigate by the stars across a sea of dunes. The city's dramatic end, likely caused by the collapse of the limestone cavern that held its water supply, only underscores the high stakes of this desert commerce. Ubar stands as a powerful symbol, transforming our view of deserts from impenetrable barriers into dynamic corridors of connection. It was a place where the incense that perfumed Roman temples and Egyptian rituals began its journey, linking the civilizations of the Mediterranean with the ancient kingdoms of the south in a web of trade and cultural exchange that was as complex as it was vast. High on the stark altiplano of western Bolivia, another network of lines dwarfs even the famous geoglyphs of Nazca. Near the sacred Sajama volcano, a sprawling web of thousands of perfectly straight paths is etched across more than 8,000 square miles of high-altitude desert. This is a landscape of extremes, sitting over 12,000 feet above sea level, where the air is thin and every physical effort is magnified. The sheer scale of this undertaking is almost beyond comprehension. We are not looking at a few ceremonial paths, but a vast, organized system that covers an area larger than some small countries. Who created this, and more importantly, why would a society commit to such a staggering project in one of the most demanding environments on the continent? The lines are believed to be pre-Columbian, potentially the work of the indigenous Carangas people, whose descendants still live in the region. Unlike the Nasca Lines, which form visible images, the Sajama lines are largely linear, a colossal network of straight tracks radiating across the plains. Their purpose remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. Were they pilgrimage routes guiding travelers toward the sacred Sajama volcano, a mountain considered a living deity? Could they have been territorial markers, defining the boundaries between ancient communities in a land where few other landmarks existed? Or did they function as astronomical guides, their straight paths aligning with celestial bodies rising over the distant peaks? The most profound mystery is not their specific use, but the shared human impulse they represent. Here, in the thin air of the Bolivian highlands, and thousands of miles away in the coastal desert of Peru, human cultures with no conceivable contact both felt compelled to transform their entire landscape into a giant, purposeful design. This repeated phenomenon forces a fundamental question about our ancient past. What deep-seated need drives humanity to imprint such order onto the world, to leave behind these immense signatures that can only be fully understood from a perspective they could never physically reach? The Sajama lines are a silent testament to a universal human drive, a need to connect the earthly with the celestial, and to mark our place in the cosmos on the grandest possible canvas. Beneath the clear, blue waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, a different kind of desert structure lies in wait. The Yonaguni Monument is a sprawling complex of massive sandstone terraces, sharp right angles, and what look unmistakably like staircases ascending toward a surface they no longer reach. Discovered by a local diver in the 1980s, this site plunges the entire debate about early human migration into the ocean itself. The central question is stark and deeply divisive. Are we looking at an astonishing feat of natural geology, where underwater currents have sculpted the sandstone into perfect platforms and pillars through millennia of random erosion? Or are these the sunken ruins of a structure shaped by human hands, a monument lost to the rising seas at the end of the last ice age? Geologists point to the region's frequent seismic activity, which can fracture rock along clean, geometric planes. They argue that nature is a master architect capable of creating forms that only appear designed. Yet other researchers point to features that seem to defy simple explanation. They identify what look like carved channels, perfect circular holes that could have held pillars, and terraces that align with a precision rarely seen in natural formations. If even a fraction of these features were made by people, the implications are so profound they would shatter our current historical framework. Dating this structure is the key to the entire mystery. If it is artificial, its construction would have to coincide with the last glacial maximum, a time when sea levels were dramatically lower and this entire area was an exposed, arid headland, a coastal desert. That would place its creation over 10,000 years ago, a time when mainstream archaeology tells us humans in this region were simple hunter-gatherers, living in small, mobile bands without the social organization or technical knowledge for such a colossal undertaking. The Yonaguni Monument, if proven to be man-made, does not just add another site to the map. It demands we accept the existence of a sophisticated, seafaring culture in prehistoric Southeast Asia, a society that could cut and move massive stones and build enduring monuments on land that would later be swallowed by the ocean. This single underwater puzzle challenges the very timeline of human ingenuity, forcing us to wonder what other chapters of our past are still hidden beneath the waves. The sheer scale of the Carnac stones is almost impossible to grasp from the ground. In the Brittany region of France, over 3,000 prehistoric standing stones march across the landscape in eerie, parallel rows stretching for miles. These are the menhirs of Carnac, erected beginning around 4,500 years before the Common Era. Today, this is a green and temperate coast, but when these stones were raised, the climate was significantly drier and more open. This was a landscape not unlike the challenging environments where other enigmatic structures took root. The purpose behind this colossal effort remains one of Europe's great prehistoric puzzles. Were these long lines a gigantic astronomical computer, their alignments marking the solstices and tracking the moon? Could they have been a sacred pathway, a ritual space for communicating with ancestors or deities? Perhaps they were a powerful statement of territory, a boundary marker for a community asserting its control over a vast area. The true answer may be a combination of all these ideas, but the undeniable fact is the staggering social organization required. To quarry, transport, and erect thousands of multi-ton stones speaks of a society with a clear hierarchy, advanced planning skills, and the ability to coordinate labor on a scale that rivals much later civilizations. This is where Carnac becomes crucial to our larger story. It is not an isolated wonder. The tradition of building with massive stones, known as megalithism, appears like a cultural thread woven across prehistoric Europe. From the stone circles of Britain to the tombs of Portugal, similar ideas in construction emerge. This suggests something profound, a web of communication and shared knowledge. The people who built Carnac were likely part of a widespread cultural network, connected by coastal sea routes and inland paths, exchanging not just goods but revolutionary ideas about architecture, astronomy, and social order. Carnac forces a dramatic shift in perspective. This level of complex social organization was not a privilege reserved for the fertile river valleys of Egypt and Mesopotamia. It emerged independently here on the windswept plains of Neolithic Europe, proving once again that human ambition and ingenuity could flourish in the most unexpected places, forever redrawing our map of early cultural development. Standing on the remote shores of Rapa Nui, the silent Moai gaze inland with an intensity that transcends time. These colossal figures, carved from compressed volcanic ash between the 13th and 16th centuries, are far more than simple statues. They are the deified ancestors of the Polynesian people who settled this island, physical manifestations of a lineage and a belief system that anchored them to the most isolated inhabited place on the planet. The conventional story told about these people is a tragic one, a cautionary tale of ecological ruin. It speaks of a society that collapsed under the weight of its own ambition, chopping down all its trees to move statues and ultimately facing a grim fate. But this narrative is being fundamentally rewritten by modern archaeology. The evidence now points not to a sudden collapse, but to a story of profound resilience and adaptation. When the environment changed, the people of Rapa Nui changed with it. They developed new agricultural techniques to grow food in depleted soils, and they shifted their cultural focus. The real, enduring mystery is not how their society ended, but how it ever began. How did the Polynesian explorers, in their sophisticated double-hulled canoes, ever find this tiny speck of land in the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean? Their voyage was one of the most daring feats of exploration in human history. With no instruments beyond their deep knowledge of the stars, the swells of the ocean, and the flight patterns of birds, they navigated thousands of miles of open water. Finding Rapa Nui was like finding a single needle in a continental-sized haystack. The Moai themselves are the ultimate proof of what happens when that incredible journey reached its conclusion. They represent a cultural explosion in extreme isolation. This was not a story of ambition leading to downfall, but of a unique and powerful human spirit flourishing against all odds. The people of Rapa Nui did not succumb to their isolation. They mastered it, channeling their identity and beliefs into one of the most striking artistic traditions the world has ever known. The silent, sprawling stones of Carnac reveal a society already organized, but the true origin of that impulse lies even deeper in the past, on a windswept hill in Turkey. Göbekli Tepe is not merely another ancient site. It is a conceptual earthquake that shatters the foundational story of civilization itself. Perched on a barren limestone ridge in southeastern Anatolia, this semi-arid landscape sets the stage for a mystery that rewrites everything. The stone circles here were not built by farmers or city dwellers. They were raised by hunter-gatherers around 9,600 years before the Common Era, a date so remote it makes Stonehenge seem like a modern construction. These people, whom traditional history casts as simple nomads, were instead master architects and artists. They quarried, transported, and erected massive T-shaped pillars weighing many tons, arranging them into vast, purposeful circles. Then, with breathtaking skill, they covered these monoliths with intricate, deeply carved reliefs of animals, from scorpions and foxes to powerful lions and birds in flight. This was not a settlement. There are no signs of permanent housing, no storage pits for grain. It was a purely ceremonial center, a temple complex built by people who lived by hunting and foraging. This single fact turns the traditional narrative of the Neolithic Revolution completely upside down. For generations, we were taught a logical sequence. Humans first learned to farm, which created a food surplus. This surplus allowed people to settle in one place, and that settled life, with its stable population and hierarchy, then gave them the time and organization to build monuments and develop complex religion. Göbekli Tepe declares this sequence is wrong. Here, the drive to build something monumental, to gather for a shared spiritual purpose, appears to have come first. The need to feed the large groups of people who gathered here to work and worship may have been the very pressure that spurred the first experiments with domesticating plants and animals. The temple may have invented the farm, not the other way around. The sophistication on display is a profound challenge to our assumptions about early human cognition. The symbolic thought required to plan such a structure and execute such elaborate art was clearly present, flourishing in a pre-agricultural society. Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent, monumental question mark, hinting at a lost era of cultural complexity whose echoes we are only just beginning to hear. Across the globe, from the ancient temples of Göbekli Tepe, another civilization was awakening to the same monumental impulse. In the humid lowlands of Mexico's Gulf Coast, the Olmec people left behind a legacy just as enigmatic, carved in impossibly heavy stone. The colossal heads are their signature, 17 known sculptures of basalt, each a single, immense block weighing up to 20 tons. These are not merely large statues. They are portraits of staggering presence, depicting individuals with stern, powerful features and unique, helmet-like headgear. To stand before one is to feel the weight of their authority, an authority that commanded not just people, but the very landscape itself. The true mystery of these heads begins not where they were found, but where they were born. The basalt for these giants was quarried from the Tuxtla Mountains, a journey of over 100 kilometers through swamps and rivers. Moving a single head would have been a logistical masterpiece, requiring the coordinated labor of hundreds, if not thousands, of people for weeks. They likely used a combination of rafts, rollers, and raw human strength, a feat of engineering that speaks of a society with a powerful, centralized leadership and an unshakable collective will. Why did they go to such extraordinary lengths? The prevailing theory is that these heads represent powerful rulers, perhaps deified ancestors, their stern visages meant to project power and legitimacy across the Olmec heartland. Their creation, beginning around 900 years before the Common Era, marks the dawn of complex society in Mesoamerica. While their core territory was lush and verdant, the Olmec sphere of influence reached far into the arid highlands of central Mexico, where they established trade outposts and cultural contacts. This reveals a pattern we have seen again and again, a civilization whose reach extended across challenging and varied environments, connecting different ecological zones through trade and ideology. The Olmecs were the foundational culture for all that followed in the region, the mother culture of Mesoamerica. Their ability to conceive of and execute such monumental art directly prefigures the towering pyramids of the Maya and the grand temples of the Aztec. This independent emergence of complex society in the Americas, complete with its own drive for colossal construction and social hierarchy, forms a powerful parallel to the developments in the Old World. It suggests that this urge to build on a grand scale, to manifest power in stone, is not a cultural fluke but a fundamental thread in the human story, emerging independently whenever conditions allow a society to look beyond mere survival and ask how it will be remembered for eternity. Buried for thousands of years beneath a blanket of sand, a storm in 1850 revealed a village frozen in time. On the remote Orkney Islands of Scotland, Skara Brae is a time capsule from 3,180 years before the Common Era, a complete Neolithic village built not of wood but of stone. Here, the harsh, windswept environment, with its salt spray and scarce trees, forced a brilliant adaptation. The people literally built their homes into the earth, using the surrounding midden, which is ancient refuse and soil, as insulation against the relentless northern cold. Inside these stone chambers, life was surprisingly refined. They crafted stone box beds, still filled with heather for comfort, and built stone dressers that likely held prized possessions, creating a sense of domestic order and comfort that feels remarkably familiar. Perhaps most impressively, they engineered a basic drainage system, a form of indoor sanitation that channeled waste away from their living spaces. This was not a community merely enduring a difficult location. They were thriving, creating a warm, secure, and organized life in a place that would challenge many people today. The inhabitants were farmers tending to their cattle and sheep, and fishermen harvesting the rich seas, but their material culture reveals a story far larger than their isolated shores. The discovery of a distinct style of grooved ware pottery directly links Skara Brae to a vast cultural network. This same pottery is found at sites across Neolithic Britain and Ireland, from the stone circles of Orkney to distant ritual centers. This single artifact is a powerful clue, proving these northern islanders were not isolated pioneers. They were active participants in a sprawling Neolithic world, connected by sea routes to other communities, sharing styles, technologies, and ideas across hundreds of miles. Skara Brae compels us to abandon the idea of marginal environments. This village, preserved by the very desert-like sands that once engulfed it, demonstrates that early human communities could achieve remarkable sophistication and comfort anywhere they chose to settle, and that even the most remote corners of the map were once vibrant nodes in a surprisingly connected ancient world. The Atacama Desert of Chile presents a canvas of staggering scale. As the driest non-polar desert on Earth, its surface is a perfect parchment, preserved for centuries under a relentless sun. Across thousands of square miles, a sprawling gallery of geoglyphs covers the hills and plains. These are not just a few scattered drawings, but a vast and diverse collection of forms, depicting stylized human figures, majestic camelids like llamas, soaring condors, and mesmerizing geometric patterns. Created over centuries from around 1000 to 1400 of the Common Era, this monumental art project was the work of successive Andean cultures, from the influential Tiwanaku state to the expansive Inca Empire. The purpose of these giant earth drawings was as multifaceted as the cultures that made them. Some were clearly ritual pathways, meant to be walked during ceremonies that connected the people to the powerful spirits of the mountains and the sky. Others functioned as crucial territorial markers, silently declaring a community's presence and control over a specific part of this immense landscape. But perhaps their most vital role was as a guide. In a world without paved roads or maps, these lines and figures served as a symbolic roadmap for the lifeblood of the Andes, the Loma caravans. Traders moving precious goods like salt, minerals, and textiles across the overwhelming emptiness would have used these familiar images as navigational aids, a reassuring sign that they were on the correct and known path. The sheer number of these geoglyphs is the ultimate testament to their importance. This was not a barren void to be feared, but a vibrant, ritually charged thoroughfare, a space that was actively used, marked, and imbued with profound meaning. The Atacama Geoglyphs represent a deep and enduring conversation between humanity and one of the planet's most extreme environments, a testament to the unbreakable human drive to connect, to communicate, and to leave a lasting mark on the world. These 15 enigmatic structures form a powerful pattern when viewed together, a pattern that demands we fundamentally redraw the map of our ancient past. The old narrative of a slow, linear migration out of Africa, clinging to coastlines and fertile valleys, simply cannot contain the evidence scattered across the world's most challenging landscapes. What emerges instead is a far more dynamic and interconnected story. Deserts were not voids on the map, but vibrant arenas where humanity repeatedly demonstrated its capacity for profound innovation. The sheer scale of the desert kites and the Sajama lines reveals a level of social organization and long-distance planning we are only just beginning to comprehend. These were not the acts of small, isolated bands, but of communities capable of coordinating labor across generations and vast geographic spaces, suggesting a world where communication and shared knowledge traveled further than we ever imagined. This network of ancient ingenuity forces us to envision a planet dotted with multiple, independent hubs of cultural complexity. From the ritual centers of the Arabian Mustatils to the celestial calendars of Nabta Playa and Rujm el-Hiri, we see the same deep-seated human impulses emerging time and again. A shared desire to understand the cosmos, to connect with the sacred, and to leave a permanent mark on the world arose not from a single source, but from the universal human spirit flourishing in the most unexpected of places. The corridors of early human migration were not just easy pathways. They were the challenging deserts, the high-altitude plains, and the open oceans, routes that required immense skill and knowledge to navigate. This new picture reveals a tapestry of human history that is far richer, more surprising, and deeply interconnected. It shows us that our ancestors were not just survivors, but explorers, astronomers, and engineers, whose legacy is written not in books, but in the very stones they left behind under the desert sun. Our journey across the deserts of the world has revealed a hidden history written in stone, a narrative that challenges the textbooks and expands our understanding of human potential. From the oldest astronomical observatories to the most isolated monumental statues, these 15 structures prove that early humans were not merely surviving in harsh environments. They were thriving, organizing, creating, and connecting on a grand scale. These enigmatic sites force us to redraw the maps of early migration, replacing the simple arrows of an old theory with a complex, vibrant web of interactions and independent innovations. The next time you look at a map, remember that the empty spaces, the great deserts, likely hold stories we have yet to fully uncover. If this exploration of our enigmatic past has captivated you, please share your thoughts on which structure fascinates you most in the comments below, and subscribe for more journeys into the mysteries of history.